The Art of Worldly Wisdom. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, visit LibriVox.org. Recorded by Linda Sonrisa, Survision.org. The Art of Worldly Wisdom by Baltasar Gracian. Translated by Joseph Jacobs. Section 13. 101. One half of the world laughs at the other, and fools are they all. Everything is good or everything is bad according to the votes they gain. What one pursues, another persecutes. He is an insufferable ass that would regulate everything according to his ideas. Excellences do not depend on a single man's pleasure. So many men, so many tastes, all different. There is no defect which is not affected by some, nor need we lose heart if things please not some, for others will appreciate them. Nor need their applause turn our head, for there will be surely others to condemn. The real test of praise is the approbation of famous men and of experts in the matter. You should aim to be independent of any one vote, of any one fashion, of any one century. 102. Be able to stomach big slices of luck. In the body of wisdom, not the least important organ is a big stomach, for great capacity implies great parts. Big bits of luck do not embarrass one who can digest still bigger ones. What is a surfeit for one may be hunger for another. Many are troubled, as it were, with weak digestion, owing to their small capacity being neither born nor trained for great employment. Their actions turn sour, and the humors that arise from their undeserved honors turn their head, and they incur great risks in high place. They do not find their proper place, for luck finds no proper place in them. A man of talent, therefore, should know that he has more room for even greater enterprises, and above all, avoid showing signs of a little heart. 103. Let each keep up his dignity. Let each deed of a man in its degree, though he be not a king, be worthy of a prince, and let his action be princely within due limits. Sublime in action, lofty in thought, in all things like a king, at least in merit, if not in might. For true kingship lies in spotless rectitude, and he need not envy greatness who can serve as a model of it. Especially should those near the throne aim at true superiority, and prefer to share the true qualities of royalty, rather than take parts in its mere ceremonies, yet without affecting its imperfections, but sharing in its true dignity. 104. Try your hand at office. It requires varied qualities, and to know which is needed taxes attention and calls for masterly discernment. Some demand courage, others tact. Those that merely require rectitude are the easiest, the most difficult those requiring cleverness. For the former, all that is necessary is character. For the latter, all one's attention and zeal may not suffice. 'Tis a troublesome business to rule men, still more fools or blockheads. Double sense is needed with those who have none. It is intolerable when an office engrosses a man with fixed hours and a settled routine. Those are better that leave a man free to follow his own devices, combining variety with importance, for the change refreshes the mind. The most in repute are those that have least or most distant dependence on others. The worst is that which worries us, both here and hereafter. 105. Don't be a bore. The man of one business or of one topic is apt to be heavy. Brevity flatters and does better business. It gains by courtesy what it loses by curtness. Good things, when short, are twice as good. The quintessence of the matter is more effective than a whole farrago of details. It is a well-known truth that talkative folk rarely have much sense, whether in dealing with the matter itself or its formal treatment. There are that serve more for stumbling stones than centerpieces, useless lumber in everyone's way. The wise avoid being bores, especially to the great, who are fully occupied. It is worse to disturb one of them than all the rest. Well said is soon said. 106. Do not parade your position. To outshine in dignity is more offensive than in personal attractions. To pose as a personage is to be hated. Envy is surely enough. The more you seek esteem, the less you obtain it, for it depends on the opinion of others. You cannot take it, but must earn and receive it from others. Great positions require an amount of authority sufficient to make them efficient. Without it, they cannot be adequately filled. Preserve, therefore, enough dignity to carry on the duties of the office. Do not enforce respect, but try and create it. Those who insist on the dignity of their office show they have not deserved it, and that it is too much for them. If you wish to be valued for your talents, not for anything adventitious. Even kings prefer to be honored for their personal qualifications rather than for their station. 107. Show no self-satisfaction. You must neither be discontented with yourself, and that were poor-spirited, nor self-satisfied, and that is folly. Self-satisfaction arises mostly from ignorance. It would be a happy ignorance, not without its advantages, if it did not injure our credit. Because a man cannot achieve the superlative perfections of others, he contents himself with any mediocre talent of his own. Distrust is wise and even useful, either to evade mishaps or to afford consolation when they come, for a misfortune cannot surprise a man who has already feared it. Even Homer nods at times, and Alexander fell from his lofty state and out of his illusions. Things depend on many circumstances. What constitutes triumph in one set may cause a defeat in another. In the midst of all incorrigible folly remains the same, with empty self-satisfaction, blossoming, flowering, and running all to seed. 108. The path to greatness is along with others. Intercourse works well, manners and taste are shared, good sense and even talent grow insensibly. Let the sanguine man then make a comrade of the lymphatic, and so with the other temperaments, so that without any forcing the golden mean is obtained. It is a great art to agree with others. The alternation of contraries beautifies and sustains the world. If it can cause harmony in the physical world, still more can it do so in the moral. Adopt this policy in the choice of friends and defendants. By joining extremes, the more effective middle way is found. 109. Be not censorious. There are men of gloomy character who regard everything as faulty, not from any evil motive, but because it is their nature to. They condemn all. These for what they have done, those for what they will do. This indicates a nature worse than cruel, vile indeed. They accuse with such exaggeration that they make out of motes beams wherewith to force out the eyes. They are always taskmasters who could turn a paradise into a prison. If passion intervenes, they drive matters to the extreme. A noble nature, on the contrary, always knows how to find an excuse for failings, if not in the intention, at least from oversight. 110. Do not wait till you are a sinking sun. 'Tis a maxim of the wise to leave things before things leave them. One should be able to snatch a triumph at the end, just as the sun, even at its brightest, often retires behind a cloud, so as not to be seen sinking, and to leave in doubt whether he has sunk or no. Wisely withdraw from the chance of mishaps, lest you have to do so from the reality. Do not wait till they turn you the cold shoulder, and carry you to the grave, alive in feeling, but dead in esteem. Wise trainers put racers to grass before they arouse derision by falling on the course. A beauty should break her mirror early, lest she do so later with open eyes. End of section 13. Section 14. The Art of Worldly Wisdom. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Linda Sonrisa, Survision.org. The Art of Worldly Wisdom by Baltasar Gracian. Section 14. 111. Have friends. 'Tis a second existence. Every friend is good and wise for his friend. Among them all everything turns to good. Every one is as others wish him, that they may wish him well. He must win their hearts, and so their tongues. There is no magic like a good turn, and the way to gain friendly feelings is to do friendly acts. The most and best of us depend on others. We have to live either among friends or among enemies. Seek someone every day to be a well-wisher, if not a friend. By and by, after trial, some of these will become intimate. 112. Gain goodwill. For thus the first and highest cause foresees and furthers the greatest objects. By gaining their goodwill you gain men's good opinion. Some trust so much to merit that they neglect grace. But wise men know that service road without a lift from favor is a long way indeed. Goodwill facilitates and supplies everything. It supposes gifts or even supplies them, as courage, zeal, knowledge, or even discretion, whereas defects it will not see because it does not search for them. It arises from some common interest, either material, as disposition, nationality, relationship, fatherland, office, or formal, which is a higher kind of communion, in capacity, obligation, reputation, or merit. The whole difficulty is to gain goodwill. To keep it is easy. It has, however, to be sought for, and when found, to be utilized. 113. In prosperity, prepare for adversity. It is both wiser and easier to collect winter stores in summer. In prosperity favors are cheap, and friends are many. 'Tis well, therefore, to keep them for more unlucky days, for adversity costs dear, and has no helpers. Retain a store of friendly and obliged persons. The day may come when their price will go up. Low minds never have friends. In luck they will not recognize them. In misfortune they will not be recognized by them. 14. Never compete. Every competition damages the credit. Our rivals seize occasion to obscure us so as to outshine us. Few wage honorable war. Rivalry discloses faults which courtesy would hide. Many have lived in good repute while they had no rivals. The heat of conflict gives life, or even new life, to dead scandals and digs up long-buried skeletons. Competition begins with the belittling and seeks aid wherever it can, not only where it ought. And when the weapons of abuse do not affect their purpose, as often or mostly happens, our opponents use them for revenge, and use them at least for beating away the dust of oblivion from anything to our discredit. Men of goodwill are always at peace. Men of good repute and dignity are men of goodwill. 15. Get used to the failings of your familiars. As you do to ugly faces, it is indispensable if they depend on us or we on them. There are wretched characters with whom one cannot live, yet not without them. Therefore clever folks get used to them, as to ugly faces, so that they are not obliged to do so suddenly under the pressure of necessity. At first they arouse disgust, but gradually they lose this influence, and reflection provides for disgust, or puts up with it. 16. Only act with honorable men. You can trust them, and they you. Their honor is the best surety of their behavior, even in misunderstandings, for they always act having regard to what they are. Hence 'tis better to have a dispute with honorable people than to have a victory over dishonorable ones. You cannot treat with the ruined, for they have no hostages for rectitude. With them there is no true friendship, and their agreements are not binding, however stringent they may appear, because they have no feeling of honor. Never have to do with such men, for if honor does not restrain a man, virtue will not, since honor is the throne of rectitude. 17. Never talk of yourself. You must either praise yourself, which is vain, or blame yourself, which is little-minded. It ill beseems him that speaks, and ill pleases him that hears. And if you should avoid this in ordinary conversation, how much more in official matters, and above all in public speaking, where every appearance of unwisdom really is unwise. The same want of tact lies in speaking of a man in his presence, owing to the danger of going to one of two extremes, flattery or censure. 18. Acquire the reputation of courtesy, for it is enough to make you liked. Politeness is the main ingredient of culture, a kind of witchery that wins the regard of all as surely as discourtesy gains their disfavor and opposition. If this latter springs from pride, it is abominable, and if from bad breeding, it is despicable. Better too much courtesy than too little, provided it be not the same for all, which degenerates into injustice. Between opponents, it is especially due as a proof of valor. It costs little and helps much. Everyone is honored who gives honor. Politeness and honor have this advantage, that they remain with him who displays them to others. 19. Avoid becoming disliked. There is no occasion to seek dislike. It comes without seeking, quickly enough. There are many who hate of their own accord, without knowing the why or the how. Their ill will outruns our readiness to please. Their ill nature is more prone to do others harm than their cupidity is eager to gain advantage for themselves. Some manage to be on bad terms with all, because they always either produce or experience vexation of spirit. Once hate has taken root, it is, like bad repute, difficult to eradicate. Wise men are feared, the malevolent are abhorred, the arrogant are regarded with disdain, buffoons with contempt, eccentrics with neglect. Therefore, pay respect that you may be respected, and know that to be esteemed you must show esteem. 120. Live practically. Even knowledge has to be in the fashion, and where it is not, it is wise to affect ignorance. Thought and taste change with the times. Do not be old-fashioned in your ways of thinking, and let your taste be in the modern style. In everything, the taste of the many carries the votes. For the time being, one must follow it in the hope of leading it to higher things. In the adornment of the body as of the mind, adapt yourself to the present, even though the past appear better. But this rule does not apply to kindness, for goodness is for all time. It is neglected nowadays and seems out of date. Truth-speaking, keeping your word, and so too good people, seem to come from the good old times. Yet they are liked for all that, but in such a way that even when they all exist, they are not in the fashion and are not imitated. What a misfortune for our age, that it regards virtue as a stranger, and vice as a matter of course. If you are wise, live as you can. If you cannot, live as you would. Think more highly of what fate has given you than of what it has denied. End of section 14. Section 15 of The Art of Worldly Wisdom. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Linda Sonrisa, Servision.org. The Art of Worldly Wisdom by Baltasar Gracian. Translated by Joseph Jacobs. Section 15. 121. Do not make a business of what is no business. As some make gossip out of everything, so others' business. They always talk big, take everything in earnest, and turn it into a dispute or secret. Troublesome things must not be taken too seriously if they can be avoided. It is preposterous to take to heart that which you should throw over your shoulders. Much that would be something has become nothing by being left alone, and what was nothing has become of consequence by being made much of. At the outset, things can be easily settled, but not afterwards. Often the remedy causes the disease. 'Tis by no means the least of life's rules to let things alone. 122. Distinction in speech and action. By this you gain a position in many places and carry esteem beforehand. It shows itself in everything, in talk, in look, even in gait. It is a great victory to conquer men's hearts. It does not arise from any foolish presumption or pompous talk, but in a becoming tone of authority, born of superior talent combined with true merit. 123. Avoid affectation. The more merit, the less affectation, which gives a vulgar flavor to all. It is wearisome to others and troublesome to the one affected, for he becomes a martyr to care and tortures himself with attention. The most eminent merits lose most by it, for they appear proud and artificial instead of being the product of nature, and the natural is always more pleasing than the artificial. One always feels sure that the man who affects a virtue has it not. The more pains you take with a thing, the more should you conceal them, so that it may appear to arise spontaneously from your own natural character. Do not, however, in avoiding affectation, fall into it by affecting to be unaffected. The sage never seems to know his own merits, for only by not noticing them can you call others' attention to them. He is twice great who has all the perfections in the opinions of all except of himself. He attains applause by two opposite paths. 124. Get yourself missed. Few reach such favor with the many. If with the wise, 'tis the height of happiness. When one has finished one's work, coldness is the general rule, but there are ways of earning this reward of goodwill. The sure way is to excel in your office and talents. Add to this agreeable manner, and you reach the point where you become necessary to your office, not your office to you. Some do honor to their post. With others 'tis the other way. It is no great gain if a poor successor makes the predecessor seem good, for this does not imply that the one is missed, but that the other is wished away. 125. Do not be a blacklist. It is a sign of having a tarnished name to concern oneself with the ill fame of others. Some wish to hide their own stains with those of others, or at least wash them away, or they seek consolation therein. 'Tis the consolation of fools. They must have bad breath who form the sewers of scandal for the whole town. The more one grubs about in such matters, the more one befouls oneself. There are few without stain somewhere or other, but it is of little-known people that the failings are little known. Be careful, then, to avoid being a registrar of faults. That is to be an abominable thing, a man that lives without a heart. 126. Folly consists not in committing folly, but in not hiding it when committed. You should keep your desires sealed up, still more your defects. All go wrong sometimes, but the wise try to hide the errors, but fools boast of them. Reputation depends more on what is hidden than on what is done. If a man does not live chastely, he must live cautiously. The errors of great men are like the eclipses of the greater lights. Even in friendship, it is rare to expose one's failings to one's friend. Nay, one should conceal them from oneself if one can. But here one can help with that other great rule of life: learn to forget. 127. Grace in everything. 'Tis the life of talents, the breath of speech, the soul of action, and the ornament of ornament. Perfections are the adornment of our nature, but this is the adornment of perfection itself. It shows itself even in the thoughts. 'Tis most a gift of nature, and owes least to education. It even triumphs over training. It is more than ease, approaches the free and easy, gets over embarrassment, and adds the finishing touch to perfection. Without it, beauty is lifeless, graciousness ungraceful. It surpasses valor, discretion, prudence, even majesty itself. 'Tis a short way to dispatch, and an easy escape from embarrassment. 128. High-mindedness. One of the principal qualifications for a gentleman, for it spurs on to all kinds of nobility. It improves the taste, ennobles the heart, elevates the mind, refines the feelings, and intensifies dignity. It raises him in whom it is found, and at times remedies the bad turns of fortune, which only raises by striking. It can find full scope in the will when it cannot be exercised in act. Magnanimity, generosity, and all heroic qualities recognize in it their source. 129. Never complain. To complain always brings discredit. Better be a model of self-reliance opposed to the passion of others than an object of their compassion. For it opens the way for the hearer to what we are complaining of, and to disclose one insult forms an excuse for another. By complaining of past offenses we give occasion for future ones, and in seeking aid or counsel we only obtain indifference or contempt. It is much more politic to praise one man's favors, so that others may feel obliged to follow suit. To recount the favors we owe the absent is to demand similar ones from the present, and thus we sell our credit with the one to the other. The shrewd will therefore never publish to the world his failures or his defects, but only those marks of consideration which serve to keep friendship alive and enmity silent. 130. Do and be seen doing. Things do not pass for what they are, but for what they seem. To be of use, and to know how to show yourself of use, is to be twice as useful. What is not seen is as if it was not. Even the right does not receive proper consideration if it does not seem right. The observant are far fewer in number than those who are deceived by appearances. Deceit rules the roast, and things are judged by their jackets, and many things are other than they seem. A good exterior is the best recommendation of the inner perfection. End of section 15.
Of the Art of Worldly Wisdom. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Art of Worldly Wisdom by Balthasar Gracian. Translated by Joseph Jacobs. Section 16. 131. Nobility of Feeling. There is a certain distinction of the soul, a high-mindedness prompting to gallant acts, that gives an air of grace to the whole character. It is not found often, for it presupposes great magnanimity. Its chief characteristic is to speak well of an enemy, and to act even better towards him. It shines brightest when a chance comes of revenge. Not alone does it let the occasion pass, but it improves it by using a complete victory in order to display unexpected generosity. 'Tis a fine stroke of policy, nay, the very acme of statecraft. It makes no pretence to victory, for it pretends to nothing, and, while obtaining its deserts, it conceals its merits. 132. Revise your judgments. To appeal to an inner court of revision makes things safe. Especially when the course of action is not clear, you gain time either to confirm or improve your decision. It affords new grounds for strengthening or corroborating your judgment. And if it is a matter of giving, the gift is the more valued from its being evidently well considered than for being promptly bestowed. Long expected is highest prized. And if you have to deny, you gain time to decide how and when to mature the no, that it may be made palatable. Besides, after the first heat of desire is past, the repulse of refusal is felt less keenly in cold blood. But especially when men press for a reply, is it best to defer it, for as often as not that is only a feint to disarm a tension. 133. Better mad with the rest of the world than wise alone. So say politicians. If all are so, one is no worse off than the rest, whereas solitary wisdom passes for folly. So important is it to sail with the stream. The greatest wisdom often consists in ignorance or the pretence of it. One has to live with others, and others are mostly ignorant. To live entirely alone, one must be very like a god or quite like a wild beast. But I would turn the aphorism by saying, better be wise with the many than a fool all alone. There may be some, too, who seek to be original by seeking chimeras. 134. Double your resources. You thereby double your life. One must not depend on one thing or trust to only one resource, however preeminent. Everything should be kept double, especially the causes of success, of favor, or of esteem. The moon's mutability transcends everything and gives a limit to all existence, especially of things dependent on human will, the most brittle of all things. To guard against this inconstancy should be the sage's care, and for this the chief rule of life is to keep a double store of good and useful qualities. Thus, as nature gives us in duplicate the most important of our limbs and those most exposed to risk, so art should deal with the qualities on which we depend for success. 135. Do not nourish the spirit of contradiction. It only proves you foolish or peevish, and prudence should guard against this strenuously. To find difficulties in everything may prove you clever, but such wrangling writes you down a fool. Such folk make a mimic war out of the most pleasant conversation, and in this way act as enemies towards their associates rather than towards those with whom they do not consort. Grit grates most in delicacies, and so does contradiction in amusement. They are both foolish and cruel who yoke together the wild beast and the tame. 136. Post yourself in the center of things, so you feel the pulse of affairs. Many lose their way either in the ramifications of useless discussion or in the brushwood of wearisome verbosity without ever realizing the real matter at issue. They go over a single point 100 times, wearing themselves and others, and yet never touch the all-important center or affairs. This comes from a confusion of mind from which they cannot extricate themselves. They waste time and patience on matters they should leave alone, and cannot spare them afterwards for what they have left alone. 137. The sage should be self-sufficing. He that was all in all to himself carried all with him when he carried himself. If a universal friend can represent to us Rome and the rest of the world, let a man be his own universal friend, and then he is in a position to live alone. Whom could such a man want if there is no clearer intellect or finer taste than his own? He would then depend on himself alone, which is the highest happiness and like the supreme being. He that can live alone resembles the brute beast in nothing, the sage in much, and God in everything. 138. The art of letting things alone. The more so, the wilder the waves of public or of private life. There are hurricanes in human affairs, tempests of passion, when it is wise to retire to a harbour and ride at anchor. Remedies often make diseases worse. In such cases, one has to leave them to their natural course and the moral suasion of time. It takes a wise doctor to know when not to prescribe, and at times the greatest skill consists in not applying remedies. The proper way to still the storms of the vulgar is to hold your hand and let them calm down of themselves. To give way now is to conquer by and by. A fountain gets muddy with but little stirring up, and does not get clear by our meddling with it, but by our leaving it alone. The best remedy for disturbances is to let them run their course, for so they quiet down. 139. Recognize unlucky days. They exist. Nothing goes well on them. Even though the game may be changed, the ill luck remains. 2 tries should be enough to tell if one is in luck today or not. Everything is in process of change, even the mind, and no one is always wise. Chance has something to say, even how to write a good letter. All perfection turns on the time, even beauty has its hours. Even wisdom fails at times by doing too much or too little. To turn out well, a thing must be done on its own day. This is why, with some, everything turns out ill, with others all goes well, even with less trouble. They find everything ready, their wit prompt, their presiding genius favourable, their lucky star in the ascendant. At such times one must seize the occasion and not throw away the slightest chance. But a shrewd person will not decide on the day's luck by a single piece of good or bad fortune, for the one may be only a lucky chance, and the other only a slight annoyance. 140. Find the good in a thing at once. 'Tis the advantage of good taste. The bee goes to the honey for her comb, the serpent to the gall for its venom. So with taste. Some seek the good, others the ill. There is nothing that has no good in it, especially in books, as giving food for thought. But many have such a scent that amid 1,000 excellences they fix upon a single defect and single it out for blame, as if they were the scavengers of men's minds and hearts. So they draw up a balance sheet of defects which does more credit to their bad taste than to their intelligence. They lead a sad life, nourishing themselves on bitters and battening on garbage. They have the luckier taste, who, midst 1,000 defects, seize upon a single beauty they may have hit upon by chance. End of section 16.
of The Art of Worldly Wisdom. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Wayne Cook. The Art of Worldly Wisdom by Baldassar Gracian. Translated by Joseph Jacobs. Section 17. Number 141. Do not listen to yourself. It is no use pleasing yourself if you do not please others, and as a rule, general contempt is the punishment for self-satisfaction. The attention you pay to yourself you probably owe to others. To speak and at the same time listen to yourself cannot turn out well. If to talk to oneself when alone is folly, it must be doubly unwise to listen to oneself in the presence of others. It is a weakness of the great to talk with the recurrent, "as I was saying," and which bewilders their hearers. At every sentence they look for applause or flattery, taxing the patience of the wise. So, too, the pompous speak with an echo, and as their talk can only totter on with the aid of stilts, at every word they need the support of a stupid bravo. Number 142. Never from obstinacy take the wrong side because your opponent has anticipated you in taking the right one. You begin the fight already beaten and must soon take to flight in disgrace. With bad weapons one can never win. It was astute in the opponent to seize the better side first. It would be folly to come lagging after with the worst. Such obstinacy is more dangerous in actions than in words, for action encounters more risk than talk. 'Tis the common failing of the obstinate that they lose the true by contradicting it, and the useful by quarreling with it. The sage never places himself on the side of passion, but espouses the cause of right, either discovering it first or improving it later. If the enemy is a fool, he will in such a case turn round to follow the opposite and worse way. Thus the only way to drive him from the better course is to take it yourself, for his folly will cause him to desert it, and his obstinacy be punished for so doing. Number 143. Never become paradoxical in order to avoid the trite. Both extremes damage our reputation. Every undertaking which differs from the reasonable approaches foolishness. The paradox is a cheat. It wins applause at first by its novelty and piquancy, but afterwards it becomes discredited when the deceit is foreseen and its emptiness becomes apparent. It is a species of jugglery, and in matters political would be the ruin of states. Those who cannot or dare not reach great deeds on the direct road of excellence go round by way of paradox, admired by fools, but making wise men true prophets. It argues an unbalanced judgment, and if it is not altogether based on the false, it is certainly founded on the uncertain, and risks the weightier matters of life. Number 144. Begin another's to end with your own. 'Tis a politic means to your end. Even in heavenly matters, Christian teachers lay stress on this holy cunning. It is a weightier piece of dissimulation, for the foreseen advantages serve as a lure to influence the other's will. His affair seems to be in train when it is really only leading the way for another's. One should never advance unless under cover, especially where the ground is dangerous. Likewise, with persons who always say no at first, it is useful to ward off this blow, because the difficulty of conceding much more does not occur to them when your version is presented to them. This advice belongs to the rule about second thoughts, chapter 13, which covers the most subtle maneuvers of life. Number 145. Do not show your wounded finger, for everything will knock up against it, nor complain about it, for malice always aims where weakness can be injured. It is no use to be vexed, being the butt of the talk will only vex you the more. Ill will searches for wounds to irritate, aims darts to try the temper, and tries 1,000 ways to sting to the quick. The wise never own to being hit, or disclose any evil, whether personal or hereditary, for even fate sometimes likes to wound us where we are most tender. It always mortifies wounded flesh. Never, therefore, disclose the source of mortification or of joy, if you wish the one to cease and the other to endure. Number 146. Look into the interior of things. Things are generally other than they seem, and ignorance that never looks beneath the rind becomes disabused when you show the kernel. Lies always come first, dragging fools along by their irreparable vulgarity. Truth always lags last, limping along on the arm of time. The wise, therefore, reserve for it the other half of that power which the common mother has widely given in duplicate. Deceit is very superficial, and the superficial therefore easily fall into it. Prudence lives retired within its recesses, visited only by sages and wise men. Number 147. Do not be inaccessible. None is so perfect that he does not need, at times, the advice of others. He is an incorrigible ass who will never listen to anyone. Even the most surpassing intellect should find a place for friendly counsel. Sovereignty itself must learn to lean. There are some that are incorrigible simply because they are inaccessible. They fall to ruin because none dares to extricate them. The highest should have the door open for friendship. It may prove the gate of help. A friend must be free to advise, and even to upbraid, without feeling embarrassed. Our satisfaction in him and our trust in his steadfast faith give him that power. One need not pay respect or give credit to everyone, but in the innermost of his precaution, man has a true mirror of a confidant to whom he owes the correction of his errors, and has to thank for it. Number 148. Have the art of conversation. That is where the real personality shows itself. No act in life requires more attention, though it be the commonest thing in life. You must either lose or gain by it. If it needs care to write a letter, which is but a deliberate and written conversation, how much more the ordinary kind in which there is occasion for a prompt display of intelligence. Experts feel the pulse of the soul is the tongue, wherefore the sage said, "Speak, that I may know thee." Some hold that the art of conversation is to be without art, that it should be neat, not gaudy, like the garments. This holds good for talk between friends, but when held with a person to whom one would show respect, it should be more dignified to answer to the dignity of the person addressed. To be appropriate, it should adapt itself to the mind and tone of the interlocutor. And do not be a critic of words, or you will be taken for pedant, nor a tax-gatherer of ideas, or men will avoid you, or at least sell their thoughts dear. In conversation, discretion is more important than eloquence. Number 149. Know how to put off ills on others. To have a shield against ill will is a great piece of skill in a ruler. It is not the resort of incapacity, as ill-wishers imagine, but is due to the higher policy of having someone to receive the censure of the disaffected and the punishment of universal detestation. Everything cannot turn out well, nor can everyone be satisfied. It is well, therefore, even at the cost of our pride, to have such a scapegoat, such a target for unlucky undertakings. Number 150. Know to get your price for things. Their intrinsic value is not sufficient, for all do not bite at the kernel or look into the interior. Most go with the crowd, and go because they see others go. It is a great stroke of art to bring things into repute, at times by praising them, for praise arouses desire, at times by giving them a striking name, which is very useful for putting things at a premium, provided it is done without affectation. Again, it is generally an inducement to profess to supply only connoisseurs, for all think themselves such, and, if not, the sense of want arouses the desire. Never call things easy or common. That makes them depreciated rather than made accessible. All rush after the unusual, which is more appetizing both for the taste and for the intelligence. End of section 17.
Worldly Wisdom. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Tina Ding. The Art of Worldly Wisdom by Baltasar Gracian. Translated by Joseph Jacobs. 151. Think beforehand. Today, for tomorrow, and even for many days hence, the greatest foresight consists in determining beforehand the time of trouble. For the provident, there are no mischances, and for the careful, no narrow escapes. We must not put off thought till we're up to the chin in mire. Mature reflection can get over the most formidable difficulty. The pillow is a silent Sibyl, and it is better to sleep on things beforehand than lie awake about them afterwards. Many act first and then think afterwards. That is, they think less of consequences than of excuses. Others think neither before nor after. The whole of life should be one course of thought how not to miss the right path. Rumination and foresight enable one to determine the line of life. 152. Never have a companion who casts you in the shade. The more he does so, the less desirable a companion he is. The more he excels in quality, the more in repute, he will always play first fiddle and you second. If you get any consideration, it is only his leavings. The moon shines bright alone among the stars. When the sun rises, she becomes either invisible or imperceptible. Never join one that eclipses you, but rather one who sets you in a brighter light. By this means, the cunning Fabula in Martial was able to appear beautiful and brilliant, owing to the ugliness and disorder of her companions. But one should as little imperil oneself by an evil companion as pay honor to another at the cost of one's own credit. When you are on the way to fortune, associate with the eminent. When arrived, with the mediocre. 153. Beware of entering where there is a great gap to be filled. But if you do it, be sure to surpass your predecessor. Merely to equal him requires twice his worth. As it is a fine stroke to arrange that our successor shall cause us to be wished back, so it is policy to see that our predecessor does not eclipse us. To fill a great gap is difficult, for the past always seems best, and to equal the predecessor is not enough, since he has the right of first possession. You must therefore possess additional claims to oust the other from his hold on public opinion. 154. Do not believe or like lightly. Maturity of mind is best shown in slow belief. Lying is the usual thing, then let belief be unusual. He that is lightly led away soon falls into contempt. At the same time, there is no necessity to betray your doubts in the good faith of others, for this adds insult to discourtesy, since you make out your informant to be either deceiver or deceived. Nor is this the only evil. Want of belief is the mark of the liar, who suffers from two failings. He neither believes nor is believed. Suspension of judgment is prudent in a hearer. The speaker can appeal to his original source of information. There is a similar kind of imprudence in liking too easily, for lies may be told by deeds as well as in words, and this deceit is more dangerous for practical life. 155. The art of getting into a passion. If possible, oppose vulgar importunity with prudent reflection. It will not be difficult for a really prudent man. The first step towards getting into a passion is to announce that you are in a passion. By this means you begin the conflict with command over your temper, for one has to regulate one's passion to the exact point that is necessary and no further. This is the art of arts in falling into and getting out of a rage. You should know how and when best to come to a stop. It is most difficult to halt while running at a double. It is a great proof of wisdom to remain clear-sighted during paroxysms of rage. Every excess of passion is a digression from rational conduct. But by this masterly policy, reason will never be transgressed, nor pass the bounds of its own interests. To keep control of passion, one must hold firm the reins of attention. He who can do so will be the first man wise on horseback, and probably the last. 156. Select your friends. Only after passing the matriculation of experience and the examination of fortune will they be graduates not alone in affection, but in discernment. Though this is the most important thing in life, it is the one least cared for. Intelligence brings friends to some, chance to most. Yet a man is judged by his friends, for there was never agreement between wise men and fools. At the same time, to find pleasure in a man's society is no proof of near friendship. It may come from the pleasantness of his company more than from trust in his capacity. There are some friendships legitimate, others illicit, the latter for pleasure, the former for their fecundity of ideas and motives. Few are the friends of a man's self, most those of his circumstances. The insight of a true friend is more useful than the goodwill of others. Therefore, gain them by choice, not by chance. A wise friend wards off worries, a foolish one brings them about. But do not wish them too much luck, or you may lose them. 157. Do not make mistakes about character. That is the worst and yet easiest error. Better be cheated in the price than in the quality of goods. In dealing with men, more than with other things, it is necessary to look within. To know men is different from knowing things. It is profound philosophy to sound the depths of feeling and distinguish traits of character. Men must be studied as deeply as books. 158. Make use of your friends. This requires all the art of discretion. Some are good afar off, some when near. Many are no good at conversation, but excellent as correspondents, for distance removes some failings which are unbearable in close proximity to them. Friends are for use even more than for pleasure, for they have the three qualities of the good, or, as some say, of being in general, unity, goodness, and truth. For a friend is all in all. Few are worthy to be good friends, and even these become fewer because men do not know how to pick them out. To keep is more important than to make friends. Select those that will wear well. If they are new at first, it is some consolation they will become old. Absolutely the best are those well salted, though they may require soaking in the testing. There is no desert like living without friends. Friendship multiplies the good of life and divides the evil. 'Tis the sole remedy against misfortune, the very ventilation of the soul. 159. Put up with fools. The wise are always impatient, for he that increases knowledge increases impatience of folly. Much knowledge is difficult to satisfy. The first great rule of life, according to Epictetus, is to put up with things. He makes that the moiety of wisdom. To put up with all the varieties of folly would need much patience. We often have to put up with most from those on whom we most depend. A useful lesson in self-control. Out of patience comes forth peace, the priceless boon which is the happiness of the world. But let him that hath no power of patience retire within himself, though even there he will have to put up with himself. 160. Be careful in speaking, with your rivals from prudence, with others for the sake of appearance. There is always time to add a word, never to withdraw one. Talk as if you were making your will, the fewer words the less litigation. In trivial matters, exercise yourself for the more weighty matters of speech. Profound secrecy has some of the luster of the divine. He who speaks lightly soon falls or fails. End of section 18. Of Worldly Wisdom. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Tina Ding. The Art of Worldly Wisdom by Baltasar Gracian. Translated by Joseph Jacobs. 161. Know your pet faults. The most perfect of men has them, and is either wedded to them or has illicit relations with them. They are often faults of intellect, and the greater this is, the greater they are, or at least the more conspicuous. It is not so much that their possessor does not know them, he loves them, which is a double evil, irrational affection for avoidable faults. They are spots on perfection. They displease the onlooker as much as they please the possessor. 'Tis a gallant thing to get clear of them, and so give play to one's other qualities. For all men hit upon such a failing, and on going over your qualifications, they make a long stay at this blot and blacken it as deeply as possible in order to cast your other talents into the shade. 162. How to triumph over rivals and detractors. It is not enough to despise them, though this is often wise. A gallant bearing is the thing. One cannot praise a man too much who speaks well of them who speak ill of him. There is no more heroic vengeance than that of talents and services, which at once conquer and torment the envious. Every success is a further twist of the cord round the neck of the ill-affected, and an enemy's glory is the rival's hell. The envious die not once, but as oft as the envied wins applause. The immortality of his fame is the measure of the other's torture. The one lives in endless honor, the other in endless pain. The clarion of fame announces immortality to the one and death to the other, the slow death of envy long drawn out. 163. Never, from sympathy with the unfortunate, involve yourself in his fate. One man's misfortune is another man's luck, for one cannot be lucky without many being unlucky. It is a peculiarity of the unfortunate to arouse people's goodwill who desire to compensate them for the blows of fortune with their useless favor, and it happens that one who is abhorred by all in prosperity is adored by all in adversity. Vengeance on the wing is exchanged for compassion afoot, yet 'tis to be noticed how fate shuffles the cards. There are men who always consort with the unlucky, and he that yesterday flew high and happy stands today miserable at their side. That argues nobility of soul, but not worldly wisdom. 164. Throw straws in the air to find how things will be received, especially those whose reception or success is doubtful. One can thus be assured of its turning out well, and an opportunity is afforded for going on in earnest or withdrawing entirely. By trying men's intentions in this way, the wise man knows on what ground he stands. This is the great rule of foresight in asking, in desiring, and in ruling. 165. Wage war honorably. You may be obliged to wage war, but not to use poisoned arrows. Everyone must needs act as he is, not as others would make him to be. Gallantry in the battle of life wins all men's praise. One should fight so as to conquer, not alone by force, but by the way it is used. A mean victory brings no glory, but rather disgrace. Honor always has the upper hand. An honorable man never uses forbidden weapons, such as using a friendship that's ended for the purpose of a hatred just begun. A confidence must never be used for a vengeance. The slightest taint of treason tarnishes the good name. In men of honor, the smallest trace of meanness repels. The noble and the ignoble should be miles apart. Be able to boast that if gallantry, generosity, and fidelity were lost in the world, men would be able to find them again in your own breast. 166. Distinguish the men of words from the men of deeds. Discrimination here is as important as in the case of friends, persons, and employments, which have all many varieties. Bad words, even without bad deeds, are bad enough. Good words with bad deeds are worse. One cannot dine off words, which are wind, nor off politeness, which is but polite deceit. To catch birds with a mirror is the ideal snare. It is the vain alone who take their wages in windy words. Words should be the pledges of work, and, like pawn tickets, have their market price. Trees that bear leaves but not fruit have usually no pith. Know them for what they are, of no use except for shade. 167. Know how to take your own part. In great crises, there is no better companion than a bold heart, and if it becomes weak, it must be strengthened from the neighboring parts. Worries die away before a man who asserts himself. One must not surrender to misfortune, or else it would become intolerable. Many men do not help themselves in their troubles, and double their weight by not knowing how to bear them. He that knows himself knows how to strengthen his weakness, and the wise man conquers everything, even the stars in their courses. 168. Do not indulge in the eccentricities of folly. Like vain, presumptuous, egotistical, untrustworthy, capricious, obstinate, fanciful, theatrical, whimsical, inquisitive, paradoxical, sectarian people, and all kinds of one-sided persons, they are all monstrosities of impertinence. All deformity of mind is more obnoxious than that of the body because it contravenes a higher beauty. Yet who can assist such a complete confusion of mind? Where self-control is wanting, there is no room for others' guidance. Instead of paying attention to other people's real derision, men of this kind blind themselves with the unfounded assumption of their imaginary applause. 169. Be more careful not to miss once than to hit 100 times. No one looks at the blazing sun. All gaze when he is eclipsed. The common talk does not reckon what goes right, but what goes wrong. Evil report carries farther than any applause. Many men are not known to the world till they have left it. All the exploits of a man taken together are not enough to wipe out a single small blemish. Avoid therefore falling into error, seeing that ill will notices every error and no success. 170. In all things keep something in reserve. 'Tis a sure means of keeping up your importance. A man should not employ all his capacity and power at once and on every occasion. Even in knowledge, there should be a rear guard so that your resources are doubled. One must always have something to resort to when there is fear of a defeat. The reserve is of more importance than the attacking force, for it is distinguished for valor and reputation. Prudence always sets to work with assurance of safety. In this matter, the Pickens paradox holds good that the half is more than the whole. End of section 19.
20 of the Art of Worldly Wisdom. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Art of Worldly Wisdom by Baltasar Gracian. Translated by Joseph Jacobs. Section 20. 171. Waste not influence. The great, as friends, are for great occasions. One should not make use of great confidence for little things, for that is to waste a favour. The sheet anchor should be reserved for the last extremity. If you use up the great for little ends, what remains afterwards? Nothing is more valuable than a protector, and nothing costs more nowadays than a favour. It can make or unmake a whole world. It can even give sense and take it away. As nature and fame are favourable to the wise, so luck is generally envious of them. It is, therefore, more important to keep the favour of the mighty than goods and chattels. 172. Never contend with a man who has nothing to lose, for thereby you enter into an unequal conflict. The other enters without anxiety. Having lost everything, including shame, he has no further loss to fear. He, therefore, resorts to all kinds of insolence. One should never expose a valuable reputation to so terrible a risk, lest what has cost years to gain may be lost in a moment, since a single slight may wipe out much sweat. A man of honor and responsibility has a reputation because he has much to lose. He balances his own and the other's reputation. He only enters into the contest with the greatest caution, and then goes to work with such circumspection that he gives time to prudence to retire in time and bring his reputation under cover. For even by victory he cannot gain what he has lost by exposing himself to the chances of loss. 173. Do not be glass in intercourse, still less in friendship. Some break very easily, and thereby show their want of consistency. They attribute to themselves imaginary offences, and to others oppressive intentions. Their feelings are even more sensitive than the eye itself, and must not be touched in jest or in earnest. Motes offend them, they need not wait for beams. Those who consort with them must treat them with the greatest delicacy, have regard to their sensitiveness, and watch their demeanour, since the slightest slight arouses their annoyance. They are mostly very egoistic, slaves of their moods, for the sake of which they cast everything aside. They are the worshippers of punctilio. On the other hand, the disposition of the true lover is firm and enduring, so that it may be said that the amant is half adamant. 174. Do not live in a hurry. To know how to separate things is to know how to enjoy them. Many finish their fortune sooner than their life. They run through pleasures without enjoying them, and would like to go back when they find they have overleaped the mark. Postilions of life, they increase the ordinary pace of life by the hurry of their own calling. They devour more in one day than they can digest in a whole lifetime. They live in advance of pleasures, eat up the years beforehand, and by their hurry get through everything too soon. Even in the search for knowledge there should be moderation, lest we learn things better left unknown. We have more days to live through than pleasures. Be slow in enjoyment, quick at work, for men see work ended with pleasure, pleasure ended with regret. 175. A solid man. One who is finds no satisfaction in those that are not. 'Tis a pitiable eminence that is not well founded. Not all are men that seem to be so. Some are sources of deceit. Impregnated by chimeras, they give birth to impositions. Others are like them so far that they take more pleasure in a lie because it promises much, than in the truth because it performs little. But in the end these caprices come to a bad end, for they have no solid foundation. Only truth can give true reputation. Only reality can be of real profit. One deceit needs many others, and so the whole house is built in the air and must soon come to the ground. Unfounded things never reach old age. They promise too much to be much trusted, just as that cannot be true which proves too much. 176. Have knowledge, or know those that have knowledge. Without intelligence, either one's own or another's, true life is impossible. But many do not know that they do not know, and many think they know when they know nothing. Failings of the intelligence are incorrigible, since those who do not know themselves, and cannot, therefore, seek what they lack. Many would be wise if they did not think themselves wise. Thus it happens that though the oracles of wisdom are rare, they are rarely used. To seek advice does not lessen greatness or argue incapacity. On the contrary, to ask advice proves you are well advised. Take counsel with reason if you do not wish to court defeat. 177. Avoid familiarities in intercourse. Neither use them nor permit them. He that is familiar loses any superiority his influence gives him, and so loses respect. The stars keep their brilliance by not making themselves common. The divine demands decorum. Every familiarity breeds contempt. In human affairs, the more a man shows, the less he has. For in open communication, you communicate the failings that reserve might keep under cover. Familiarity is never desirable. With superiors, because it is dangerous. With inferiors, because it is unbecoming. Least of all with the common herd, who become insolent from sheer folly. They mistake favour shown them for need felt of them. Familiarity trenches on vulgarity. 178. Trust your heart, especially when it has been proved. Never deny it a hearing. It is a kind of house oracle that often foretells the most important. Many have perished because they feared their own heart, but of what use is it to fear it without finding a better remedy? Many are endowed by nature with a heart so true that it always warns them of misfortune and wards off its effects. It is unwise to seek evils unless you seek to conquer them. 179. Reticence is the seal of capacity. A breast without a secret is an open letter. Where there is a solid foundation, secrets can be kept profound. There are spacious cellars where things of moment may be hid. Reticence springs from self-control, and to control oneself in this is a true triumph. You must pay ransom to each you tell. The security of wisdom consists in temperance in the inner man. The risk that reticence runs lies in the cross-questioning of others, in the use of contradiction to worm out secrets, in the darts of irony. To avoid these, the prudent becomes more reticent than before. What must be done need not be said, and what must be said need not be done. 180. Never guide the enemy to what he has to do. The fool never does what the wise judge wise, because he does not follow up the suitable means. He that is discreet follows still less a plan laid out or even carried out by another. One has to discuss matters from both points of view, turn it over on both sides. Judgments vary. Let him that has not decided attend rather to what is possible than what is probable. End of section 20.
Of Worldly Wisdom. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Linda Sonrisa, Servision.org. The Art of Worldly Wisdom by Baltasar Gracian. Translated by Joseph Jacobs. Section 21. 181. The truth, but not the whole truth. Nothing demands more caution than the truth. 'Tis the lancet of the heart. It requires as much to tell the truth as to conceal it. A single lie destroys a whole reputation for integrity. The deceit is regarded as treason, and the deceiver as a traitor, which is worse. Yet not all truths can be spoken. some for our own sake, others for the sake of others. 182. A grain of boldness in everything. 'Tis an important piece of prudence. You must moderate your opinion of others so that you may not think so high of them as to fear them. The imagination should never yield to the heart. Many appear great till you know them personally, and then dealing with them does more to disillusionize than to raise esteem. No one o'ersteps the narrow bounds of humanity. All have their weaknesses either in heart or head. Dignity gives apparent authority, which is rarely accompanied by personal power, for fortune often redresses the height of office by the inferiority of the holder. The imagination always jumps too soon and paints things in brighter colors than the real. It thinks things not as they are, but as it wishes them to be. Attentive experience, disillusioned in the past, soon corrects all that. Yet if wisdom should not be timorous, neither should folly be rash. And if self-reliance helps the ignorant, how much more the brave and wise. 183. Do not hold your views too firmly. Every fool is fully convinced, and everyone fully persuaded is a fool. The more erroneous his judgment, the more firmly he holds it. Even in cases of obvious certainty, it is fine to yield. Our reasons for holding the view cannot escape notice. Our courtesy in yielding must be the more recognized. Our obstinacy loses more than our victory yields. That is not to champion truth, but rather rudeness. There be some heads of iron most difficult to turn. Add caprice to obstinacy, and the sum is a wearisome fool. Steadfastness should be for the will, not for the mind. Yet there are exceptions where one would fail twice, owning oneself wrong both in judgment and in the execution of it. 184. Do not be ceremonious. Even in a king, affectation in this was renowned for its eccentricity. To be punctilious is to be a bore, yet whole nations have this peculiarity. The garb of folly is woven out of such things. Such folk are worshippers of their own dignity, yet show how little it is justified, since they fear that the least thing can destroy it. It is right to demand respect, but not to be considered a master of ceremonies. Yet it is true that a man to do without ceremonies must possess supreme qualities. Neither affect nor despise etiquette. He cannot be great who is great at such little things. 185. Never stake your credit on a single cast. For if it miscarries, the damage is irreparable. It may easily happen that a man should fail once, especially at first. Circumstances are not always favorable. Hence they say, every dog has his day. Always connect your second attempt with your first. Whether it succeed or fail, the first will redeem the second. Always have resort to better means and appeal to more resources. Things depend on all sorts of chances. That is why the satisfaction of success is so rare. 186. Recognize faults, however high placed. Integrity cannot mistake vice, even when clothed in brocade, or perchance crowned with gold, but will not be able to hide its character for all that. Slavery does not lose its vileness, however it vaunt the nobility of its lord and master. Vices may stand in high place, but are low for all that. Men can see that many a great man has great faults, yet they do not see that he is not great because of them. The example of the great is so specious that it even glosses over viciousness, till it may so affect those who flatter it that they do not notice that what they gloss over in the great they abominate in the lower classes. 187. Do pleasant things yourself, unpleasant things through others. By the one course you gain goodwill, by the other you avoid hatred. A great man takes more pleasure in doing a favor than in receiving one. It is the privilege of his generous nature. One cannot easily cause pain to another without suffering pain, either from sympathy or from remorse. In high place one can only work by means of rewards and punishment. So grant the first yourself, inflict the other through others. Have someone against whom the weapons of discontent, hatred, and slander may be directed. For the rage of the mob is like that of a dog. Missing the cause of its pain, it turns to bite the whip itself, and though this is not the real culprit, it has to pay the penalty. 188. Be the bearer of praise. This increases our credit for good taste, since it shows that we have learnt elsewhere to know what is excellent, and hence how to prize it in the present company. It gives material for conversation and for imitation, and encourages praiseworthy exertions. We do homage besides, in a very delicate way, to the excellences before us. Others do the opposite. They accompany their talk with a sneer, and fancy they flatter those present by belittling the absent. This may serve them with superficial people, who do not notice how cunning it is to speak ill of everyone to everyone else. Many pursue the plan of valuing more highly the mediocrities of the day than the most distinguished exploits of the past. Let the cautious penetrate through these subtleties, and let him not be dismayed by the exaggerations of the one, or made overconfident by the flatteries of the other. Knowing that both act in the same way by different methods, adapting their talk to the company they are in. 189. Utilize another's wants. The greater his wants, the greater the turn of the screw. Philosophers say privation is non-existent. Statesmen say it is all-embracing, and they are right. Many make ladders to attain their ends out of wants of others. They make use of the opportunity and tantalize the appetite by pointing out the difficulty of satisfaction. The energy of desire promises more than the inertia of possession. The passion of desire increases with every increase of opposition. It is a subtle point to satisfy the desire and yet preserve the dependence. 190. Find consolation in all things. Even the useless may find it in being immortal. No trouble without compensation. Fools are held to be lucky, and the good luck of the ugly is proverbial. Be worth little, and you will live long. It is the cracked glass that never gets broken, but worries one with its durability. It seems that fortune envies the great, so it equalizes things by giving long life to the useless, a short one to the important. Those who bear the burden come soon to grief, while those who are of no importance live on and on. In one case it appears so, in the other it is so. The unlucky thinks he has been forgotten by both death and fortune. End of section 21. Section 22 of The Art of Worldly Wisdom. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Linda Sonrisa, Servision.org. The Art of Worldly Wisdom by Baltasar Gracian. Translated by Joseph Jacobs. Section 22. 191. Do not take payment in politeness, for it is a kind of fraud. Some do not need the herbs of Thessaly for their magic, for they can enchant fools by the grace of their salute. Theirs is the bank of elegance, and they pay with the wind of fine words. To promise everything is to promise nothing. Promises are the pitfalls of fools. The true courtesy is performance of duty. The spurious, and especially the useless, is deceit. It is not respect, but rather a means to power. Obeisance is paid not to the man, but to his means, and compliments are offered not to the qualities that are recognized, but to the advantages that are desired. 192. Peaceful life, a long life. To live, let live. Peacemakers not only live, they rule life. Hear, see, and be silent. A day without dispute brings sleep without dreams. Long life, and a pleasant one, is life enough for two. That is the fruit of peace. He has all that makes nothing of what is nothing to him. There is no greater perversity than to take everything to heart. There is equal folly in troubling our heart about what does not concern us, and in not taking to heart what does. 193. Watch him that begins with another's to end with his own. Watchfulness is the only guard against cunning. Be intent on his intentions. Many succeed in making others do their own affairs, and unless you possess the key to their motives, you may at any moment be forced to take their chestnuts out of the fire to the damage of your own fingers. 194. Have reasonable views of yourself and of your affairs, especially in the beginning of life. Everyone has a high opinion of himself, especially those who have least ground for it. Everyone dreams of his good luck and thinks himself a wonder. Hope gives rise to extravagant promises which experience does not fulfill. Such idle imaginations merely serve as a wellspring of annoyance when disillusion comes with the true reality. The wise man anticipates such errors. He may always hope for the best, but he always expects the worst, so as to receive what comes with equanimity. True, it is wise to aim high so as to hit your mark, but not so high that you miss your mission at the very beginning of life. This correction of the ideas is necessary, because before experience comes expectation is sure to soar too high. The best panacea against folly is prudence. If a man knows the true sphere of his activity and position, he can reconcile his ideas with reality. 195. Know how to appreciate. There is none who cannot teach somebody something, and there is none so excellent but he is excelled. To know how to make use of everyone is useful knowledge. Wise men appreciate all men, for they see the good in each, and know how hard it is to make anything good. Fools depreciate all men, not recognizing the good and selecting the bad. 196. Know your ruling star. None so helpless as not to have one. If he is unlucky, that is because he does not know it. Some stand high in the favor of princes and potentates, without knowing why or wherefore, except that good luck itself has granted them favor on easy terms, merely requiring them to aid it with a little exertion. Others find favor with the wise. One man is better received by one nation than by another, or is more welcome in one city than in another. He finds more luck in one office or position than another, and all this though his qualifications are equal or even identical. Luck shuffles the cards how and when she will. Let each man know his luck as well as his talents, for on this depends whether he loses or wins. Follow your guiding star and help it without mistaking any other for it, for that would be to miss the north, though its neighbor, the pole star, calls us to it with a voice of thunder. 197. Do not carry fools on your back. He that does not know a fool when he sees him is one himself. Still more he that knows him, but will not keep clear of him. They are dangerous company and ruinous confidants. Even though their own caution and others' care keeps them in bounds for a time, still at length they are sure to do or to say some foolishness, which is all the greater for being kept so long in stock. They cannot help another's credit who have none of their own. They are most unlucky which is the nemesis of fools, and they have to pay for one thing or the other. There is only one thing which is not so bad about them, and this is that, though they can be of no use to the wise, they can be of much use to them as signposts or as warnings. 198. Know how to transplant yourself. There are nations with whom one must cross their borders to make one's value felt, especially in great posts. Their native land is always a stepmother to great talents. Envy flourishes there on its native soil, and they remember one's small beginnings rather than the greatness one has reached. A needle is appreciated that comes from one end of the world to the other, and a piece of painted glass might outvie the diamond in value if it comes from afar. Everything foreign is respected, partly because it comes from afar, partly because it is ready-made and perfect. We have seen persons once the laughing-stock of their village, and now the wonder of the whole world, honored by their fellow countrymen and by the foreigners among whom they dwell, by the latter because they come from afar, and by the former because they are seen from afar. The statue on the altar is never reverenced by him who knew it as a trunk in the garden. 199. To find a proper place by merit, not by presumption. The true road to respect is through merit, and if industry accompany merit, the path becomes shorter. Integrity alone is not sufficient. Push and insistence is degrading, for things arrive by that means so besprinkled with dust that the discredit destroys reputation. The true way is the middle one, halfway between deserving a place and pushing oneself into it. 200. Leave something to wish for, so as not to be miserable from very happiness. The body must respire, and the soul aspire. If one possessed all would be disillusion and discontent. Even in knowledge, there should always be something left to know in order to arouse curiosity and excite hope. Surfeits of happiness are fatal. In giving assistance, it is a piece of policy not to satisfy entirely. If there is nothing left to desire, there is everything to fear, an unhappy state of happiness. When desire dies, fear is born. End of section 22.